Hello, good evening to all. So in this video, I am going to tell you about the while loop. Now, just before starting with the while loop, just a quick revision of whatever we have discussed till now. So we started this lecture series with the introduction to variable, which are used to hold the values. And what type of values? Values can be of integer type, it can be of float type, it can be of string type. Once we are able to get the variable, then the next step that we learned is about the operators. And in the operators, we have learned about the arithmetic operators, relational operators, and the logical operators. Arithmetic operators are used to frame the mathematical expressions. Relational operators are used to compare the two values of the two operands on the left hand side and the right hand side. And logical operators are used to connect or to combine more than two questions. Then once we get how to know how to frame the questions using the relational and the logical operators, then we learned about if statement and if else statement. And with the help of if else, we are able to decide, like on the basis of the answer to the question or on the basis of the condition, we can decide which set of statements we need to execute. So conditionally, we can select some set of statements, and we can only that set of statements will be executed only when the condition is true. Otherwise, the statements that are within the else will be executed. Now, means conditionally we can select the execution of the statements. Now over here, today we are going to start with the loops. And as this word loop is indicating the English meaning of the loop, that we are just repeating the same thing again and again. We are in some circle, right? So over here, the purpose of the loop is, like if we think about our daily life, so most of the tasks that we do in our daily life, that has some repetitive nature. Like for example, like over here, I put one example. Like suppose if I want to count the total number of people that are entering into the gate, so the steps that are involved is that first I will allow one person to enter and I will update my counter. Okay, so suppose I start my counter with 0. So when one person I am going to allow, when one person through the gate, I will update the counter to 1. Then I allow another person to enter and again I will update my counter, means I add 1 to the previous value, so it becomes 2. Then again I will allow one person to enter, again I will update. So allow, update. This process will keep on happening unless and until all the people that are that we want to be inside the gate. So we are repeatedly doing this same task, allowing the person through the gate and updating the count, right? So, and the same thing, like suppose if we want to update the cricket score on the basis of the runs scored by the person, by the player. So like after every ball we need to update the score. So again, batsman hit the ball, we update the counter. Batsman hit the ball, we update the counter. So this process keep on going for the complete 50 overs if it is a 50 over match, and so on. Even when we walk, so we are doing some repeated tasks, and the repeated task is that we take a step only when after analyzing whether it is safe to take the next step or not. Means if, like suppose if I am going to take a step, and taking a step will make me clash with some wall or make me fall into some pit, then in that case I am not going to take the step, right? So it means continuously in my mind I am taking the decision whether it is safe to move forward or not. So repetitive nature is like we are following this thing in our daily life, and since we are following this in our daily life, so something should be there in the programming language also, and that something is the while loop. So with the help of a while loop, we can replicate this repetitive nature in Python programming. So how we can do that? So first of all, we will start with the syntax. So the syntax of the while loop is, first we need to put a while. while is a keyword, it is same as the if. Like in the if else we put if. If is the keyword with the help of which interpreter is able to know that over here the condition is going to be there, right? Over here I put while with the help of this while, which is a keyword. So in with the help of this keyword, interpreter will be able to know that now the loop is going to be will be started, right? So after the while, then we need to put some condition over here. It is exactly same, like means we need to put some questions, right? It is exactly same as we did for the if else. So like in if, what we did, we put if and then we put a condition, right? We put a condition, and suppose the condition is if 2 is less than 4. So this was the question, conditions. In the same way we can put some conditions over here. We will frame some questions, and only if answer to these questions is true, then only we will go inside this. Statement 1 will be executed, then statement 2 will be executed, and so on, right? And so on. So this statement 1 and 2, it will keep on executing unless and until this condition becomes false. So when interpreter is going to come over here, it will read this while this condition is true, execute statement 1 and 2. When this condition becomes false, then it will come out of this loop, and over here, suppose over here statement 3 is there, so and statement 4 is there. So when this condition becomes false, then only the interpreter will come out of this loop and it will execute this, right? So this thing, statement 1 and 2, keep on executing again and again. So the flow of the program, it will be, first this will be executed. If the condition is true, it will come inside this and it will execute this. After executing statement 2, interpreter will go back to this while loop and again it will check the condition. If the condition is true again, then it will again execute this, and after the execution of statement 2, again it will go to while loop, and this thing will keep on happening until this condition becomes false. When this condition is false, interpreter will not execute this and it will come over here. Over here it will execute statement 3, then statement 4, and so on. So while loop, as the word is indicating, if we relate it with English language, so while this condition is true, keep on executing this set of statements. So it is like, if we are going to read it in English, we are going to read like this: while this condition is true, keep executing statement 1 and 2. When this condition is false, then come over here and execute statement 3 and 4. So let's see how the things are going to work. So let me make this a comment and let's try this program. Over here, let's write a program to generate first 5 natural number. First 5 natural number means that I have to start with 1, then I need to print 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5. So I need to print this 5 natural number. So how over here, what is repetitive in this? Repetitive in this is that if suppose if I start with n equals to 1 now, and if I then print the value of n, so what it is going to do? If n is 1, it is going to display 1. Let me execute this. It is going to allocate the memory. So until that, let's go to the next step. So after printing n, if I execute this statement, n equals to n plus 1, you can see it is printing 1 over here, right? If I put n equals to n plus 1, and now again if I execute this print statement, so it is going to display 1 and 2. If I execute, repeat this 2 statement again, then what it is going to print? It is going to print 1 for this, 2 from this, and 3 for this, right? So n is 1, we print this value, then we update the value. Remember, as I told you that mathematically this statement is false, because mathematically this n on left hand side and n on right hand side will cancel each other, and we'll left with 0 equals to 1, which is mathematically wrong. But in programming language, the expression that is on the right hand side of equal to sign, it will be evaluated first. Means the value of n is 1, so it will become 1 plus 1 2. So this 2 will be assigned to n. So it means after the execution of this line, the value of n, it will be 2. So this 2 is printed with the help of this line. After 2, again we update the value of n with plus 1. So the value of n becomes 3, and we display this thing over here. Similarly, if I put this again, so it will display 4, and again then it will display 1 2 3 4 5. So we are able to print the first 5 natural numbers, right? So now over here, what we are repeating these two statements again and again. Now when in programming language, whenever we come across this type of things, that we are repeating the statements again and again, so instead of writing them again and again, what we are going to do, we are going to use the while loop. So we will start with n equals to 1, and then we will while n, we will put some condition. We will discuss the condition later on. But what statements we are repeating? We are repeating these statements. Right? So we will put some condition over here. So when this condition is true, a value of n will be printed, and then the value of n will be updated. Means the value of n, it was 1, so it will become 2. Then again we will come over here, condition will be checked. If the condition is true, again the value of n will be printed, and then the value of n will be updated to 3, and so on, right? So means we do not need to write the same thing again and again. If we have the statements that are repeating, simply we can use the while loop. And what condition we need to make? We need to make such a condition so that when after this 5, once we print this 5, then we should not go back to this while loop. So the condition should be such that once we are able to print 5, then we should not go back to this while loop, and we should come out of this loop. So what should be the condition? Our condition can be that n is less than equal to 5, right? So if now the condition is while n is less than equal to 5, print n and update the value of n. So when the value of n, it becomes 6, when n is 6, this condition will be false, and when this condition is false, it means we will come out of this loop and we will not execute these two lines, right? So the condition over here, it will be this. So if I execute this, then you will see we are able to get this, right? 1 2 3 4 5. If I put, suppose if I put 8, now if I execute, then it is going to display first 8 natural number, right? It means just by changing this number, we are able to generate the first 8 natural numbers. That is the power of the while loop, that we do not need to repeat rewriting. We do not need to keep on writing these two statements again and again. We should be a smart programmer, and we should write less by using the while loop, right? So using the loops, we will be able to save space in writing the same statements again and again. Plus our program will become automatic in the sense that the number of loops, number of times this statement need to be executed, it can be decided by the programmer, by the user. For example, if suppose if I ask user, I take let a I take one input from the user input, and I ask user enter the number of, enter how many natural numbers you want to display. It means the end I am asking from the user, right? So whatever value, if user is going to enter 5, then this loop should execute till 5. So how it can be done? If I put this condition, so if a is 5, then this loop, this condition will be n less than equal to 5. If a entered is 8, then this will be n less than equal to 8. So the things will become automatic in the sense that whatever value user is going to enter, accordingly the things will be displayed, right? So if I execute this, it is asking me, so if I enter 5, so you can see it display 1 2 3 4 5. If I want to display it on the same line, means not not one after another, means not on a different lines but on the same line, then what I can do, I can put over here and this. So now if I execute, and suppose now if I enter 8, so it has displayed 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. If I again execute, and suppose if I enter 20, it displayed 1 to 20. So you can see I do not need to do anything. Simply I just have to ask user how many first natural numbers user want to display, and accordingly the same program is going to work. So that is the power of loop. So whenever we have some statements which are repeating, so that repetitive statements we need to put inside the while loop, and just we need to come out with this condition, that what should be the condition, means what condition we should put over here, so that after some finite iterations means, like over here if the value of a is 5, then this loop is going to execute, this statements will be executed 5 times, so it means 5 iterations. If this set of statements will be executed 10 times, then 10 iterations. So how many times this set of statements are repeatedly executing, that defines the number of iterations, right? So over here the number of iterations should be finite. Means finite means we should have we should put some conditions such that this condition should become false after some finite iterations, right? If suppose if I do not if I put a condition that is never becomes false, then what will happen? So suppose if I do not update this, n equals to n plus 1, and now if I execute this, you can see if I put 5 over here, you can see it is continuously running and it is just displaying 1. Why? Because when I am over here, I have not updated the value of n. This is a comment, so interpreter is not going to execute this. So when this is not executed, when I am not updating the value of n, so the value of n remains 1. So 1 less than equal to 5. We've entered the value of a as 5, right? So this condition remains true forever, and since it remains true forever, so it keeps on running. And this type of the condition, it is known as infinite loop. Means infinite means the loop is going to execute for an infinite time, means there is no end. So we should not put this type of a condition, that so that our program do not have any end, right? Because all the, like, whatever steps that we are, or whatever repetitive steps that we have, only finite steps we used to take, right? So we should we can stop over here with by just click over here, so it is going to stop this, and you can see the keyboard interrupt, means because I stop this loop by clicking on the stop button, right? So that's the requirement of this condition. If the condition is such that never went false, so that will make an infinite loop and the loop will not end, right? So we should be very careful while making this condition, right? So this is about the while loop, right? So if I again execute this, then it has displayed the first 6 natural numbers, right? So Now let's try some more examples. Now suppose over here, if I want to generate the first 5 even numbers starting from 2, means over here in the previous case I was generating the first n or first 6 natural numbers. So suppose if I want to generate first 5 even numbers that starting from 2, then what we are going to do? Simple. We, like, if I copy this one, what change we can put over here to generate, like instead of representing number 1 2 3 4 5 6, we want 2 4 6 8 10. So what we can do? What, simply in place of this n plus 1, if I put n plus 2, and now if I execute this, and 5, so it is 1 3 5. Okay, so just a minute. Enter is, we can put this. I will explain what is happening. So if I now enter 5, so it is 1 3 5 7 9, but I want even number. So now if I execute, and now if I enter 5, so it is going to display 2 4 6 8 10. So what I have done over here, first I ask user enter how many first, how many even numbers you want to display starting from 2. Okay, so if user entered 5, it means we need to display from 2. So we start n equals to 2 over here. Why? Because as in the previous case, we start n equals to 1. So this first number is printed over here, is displayed over here. So over here, since the first number that we want to display, it is 2. So we start with 2. Now over here, why I put n equals to n plus 2? Because like in the previous case, after 1 I want 2, after 2 I want 3. So from 2, from this number to this number I can come only by adding 1. But over here, since I want to display even numbers, so after 4 I can come to 6 by adding plus 2. From 6 to 8 I can come by adding plus 2. So it is the reason simply I put plus 2. Right? Now coming to the condition. Why this condition? Because over here the value of n, this loop should terminate when n is less than, when n is becomes greater than 10. Right? So when user is going to enter how many even numbers, so if user entered 5, then it means 5 into 2, it is 10. So when the value of n is less than equal to 10, until then the loop is going to execute. When the value of n becomes greater than 10, then it is going to terminate. So since we are generating an even number, so I just multiply a with 2. So if user enter 5, it means up to 10 we will display. If user enter 6, it means up to 12 we are going to display. For example, if I again execute this, and if I enter say 6, so 6 into 2 12, so it is going to display up to 12. If I entered 8, so 8 into 2 16, so it is going to display 16, up to 16. And you can see it is first 8 even numbers, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Right? So simply the previous program, the difference between this and this one is not much. The only thing is we have to start with 2, we need to update the condition, and we need to, instead of 1 plus 1, we are going to put plus 2. Right? So in this way we can generate the first n natural first n even numbers. Right? Now let's take one more problem, and the problem is program to get the sum of first 5 integers entered by the user. Now it means this particular program, this one, can be used to update the cricket score. Like in the first ball, whatever run the batsman has scored, then in the second ball, third ball, so fourth ball, and so on. So all the runs can be added up. So how we can do this? To do this, again we can use the previous program, first program, and the program is that over here first five integer means the program to get the sum of first five integers entered by the user. It means this five integers will be entered by the user. It means that this input command should be present inside the while loop, right? So we are going to ask the user n1 is equals to int. We are going to ask the user enter an integer value. Okay, so this n1 will be entered by the user, and then we are going to add this to some variable. So what we can do over here, we can take one variable as equals to 0. So it is something like a summation. So we start with 0, like it is something like a scoreboard. The scoreboard starts with 0. So our scoreboard, it is 0 right now, right? When after the first ball, whatever run the batsman has scored, that run we need to add over here. So how we can add? Simply by having this formula n1. So if we put s equals to s plus n1, then previously the value of s is over here, it is 0. Whatever run the batsman has scored, that will be added to 0. So 0 plus n1 will be the value of s, updated value of s. So suppose if n1 is 3, so it will be 0 plus 3 equals to 3. So the 3 will be assigned to s. So the new value of s, it will be 3, right? So this we do not know, we do not want, and over here in place of a I can write 5, because we need to get the sum of first 5 integers entered by the user. So n equals to 1. So this is going to be, it is used for a counter that, and this counter will be updated over here, right? So this s is for the scoreboard to get the sum. This n1 is for the counter, means n will be equals to 1 in the first iteration, then it will be updated. In the second iteration, n will be 2. In the third, it will be 3, then 4, then 5. When n is 6, this condition will be false, and we will come out of this loop, right? Inside the while loop, we first ask the user to enter the number, then we update the value of s, right? Means after the execution of this while loop, we will get the value of s will be the summation of all the integer values that the user has entered, right? And then we can display this, print sum of all the integer values entered by the user is, and then s. So this line will be executed after this while loop. So once this condition is false, we will come out of this while loop and this will be executed. So let me execute this. So enter an integer value. Let me enter 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is displaying sum of all the integer value entered by the user is 20. So if we take the sum, 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 5 is 14, 14 plus 6 is 20. So we are getting a correct answer, right? So once again, this s is for the summation. To update the scoreboard, we start with 0 because scoreboard starts with 0. N equals to 1, it is used for the counter. Then since we need to get the sum of first 5 integers, so it is going to iterate only 5 times. So n will start from 1 and it will iterate for the values of n from 1 to 5. When n is 6, this condition will become false and we will come out of this loop. Inside the while loop, we ask the user to enter the integer value. The entered integer value is added to this scoreboard s, and then the value of n is updated. So in this way, whatever repetitive statements we have, so that can be put inside the while loop. In the while loop, also note one thing that is same as that in the if else, that after making this condition, while keyword condition, we need to put a colon, and then whatever statements that we want to execute if this condition is true, that should have the same spaces, right? If the space is not proper, suppose if I put something like this, then it is going to show an error. Which error? Indentation or indented error. You can see unindented, indentation error. This error is there because the interpreter is not able to understand that this statement is a part of which. So means all these statements should be aligned under each other. So this is all about the while loop. So if you have any doubt, you can put it in the comment box, or you can put it in the chat box. So thank you everyone, and keep sharing my videos, like my video, and subscribe my video. So thank you everyone.